Welcome to the Current Electric High School Football State Championship Preview Show presented by Cannon and Dunphy. I am Mike McGivern. Thank you so much for joining us. So 4 state champions were crowned yesterday, and we'll crown 3 more today at Camp Randall in Madison. Stay with us right here on My 24. 10 o'clock kickoff in Division III as Grafton takes on Reedsburg, followed by Division II championship at 1 o'clock as Notre Dame takes on West De Pere, followed by the big boys. Division I game, 4 o'clock kick as the Pirates from Bayport take on the Warhawks from Arrowhead. I am joined, again, day 2, my co-host, Michael Whitlow, preps writer for the Journal-Sentinel. Michael, how you been?
Good, man, good. Ready to enjoy some more football today.
Man, high school football, there's very little better. We've talked about our favorite sport, and football is always in the top 3. The next hour, we're going to break down 3 state championship games going on throughout the day, again at Camp Randall, and looking forward to doing that. Michael, let's talk about Grafton first. Division III, we'll start with Grafton. You were at that game. That unbelievable game, an instant classic when it comes to high school football games in this area, where they came back against Catholic Memorial, down 21 in the fourth quarter, and beat them in overtime. We're both big Jim Norris fans.
Absolutely. And the beautiful thing about that comeback was you could see maybe a couple of heads dropped, but they got picked right back up immediately by leaders like Tyler Heinley, Max Glab. Like, those guys did not let that team lose that night. They made big play after big play defensively. They got the stops they needed to. Nicholas Schiller made some plays offensively, and Jack Nelson was a beast in the backfield for them.
Boy, he is a beast. 2 years ago, they got to state.
Yep.
And this week, Jim's wife had a child.
Yep.
And I've had so much fun talking to him about that. And he says, look, I don't even hardly remember the week. I remember the baby, remember that. I remember getting to state. He said this year, hopefully it's a little different. And then they've had a little illness in that family, and you talked to him after the Catholic Memorial game.
I did. It was funny. Jim was like, I don't want you getting too close to me. He's like, it's good to see you, but I don't want you getting too close to me. We got a sick bug going through the house, and everybody's had it. So thankfully, he's like, I was puking my guts out earlier today, but he's like, I still found a way to be here. And his kids played hard, and I expect them to play hard today.
Hey, do you believe, and I do, I believe that there are times that the team takes on the identification of who their head coach is, and Grafton has done that. Jim Norris is the kind of guy that when I was in high school, I would have loved to play for. Run through the wall for this guy, and when we had him on the press conference, he talked about the culture, and he talked about the sledgehammers, and talked about what he believes. And we're going to take a listen to what Coach Norris had to say.
I think it's more our culture, and what this program has been built on. It's had a lot of Whitewater coaches that were there. When I went to Whitewater 2009 to 2012. Coach Steve Dinkle, who was the offensive line coach while I was there, and offensive coordinator, and a lot of those guys reaching out, and the proverbial pound the rock mantra, kept coming up. And, we talk about pound the rock. That was the epitome last Friday of what that means. I mean, you can't sit there and, play victim to the last play. You can't, sit there and worry about what happened the play before. It's, always about the next play and, grabbing the sledgehammer and swinging as hard as you can. And that's what we did. That's what we did Friday night. We just kept swinging as hard as we could. And it took more than 4 quarters to get the job done, but we kept swinging.
Michael, when he talks about, the sledgehammer and pound the rock, you think that term means we're going to 3 yards is a cloud of dust or run the ball. And that's not how he uses that term, right? Because they've thrown the ball for over 2,000 yards. Nicholas Schiller's had a great year. He's thrown 28 touchdowns. I think, and I've seen them play, I think Jack Nelson is about as tough a kid as you're going to find. He's rushed for 1,800 yards. He's caught 27 balls for 175, and the kid is 24 touchdowns on the ground. I think that offensively they start with him, but boy, if you bring your safeties up, their quarterback can throw it.
Yeah, and a shout out to Tyler Deere too. He's been their top receiver this year. He's been phenomenal offensively, and he's made some plays defensively for them in the secondary as well. So they got guys that can make plays, and they can beat you in different ways. If they need to give the ball to Jack Nelson 35 times like they did against Catholic Memorial, they'll do that. If Nicholas Schiller needs to throw for 250 to 280 and make some big plays downfield, they can do that too. They put up 66 on Greenfield earlier in the year. So they got different ways they can beat you, which makes them a dangerous team, especially when you factor in that physical defense.
And Tyler Heinley, defensively, he's a tight end on offense, linebacker on defense. He's got 81 tackles this year, and 17 of them for losses. And when Coach Norris talks about that defense, he starts with him and he says, "Look, this kid is a tough kid, and he understands the game, and he is in charge of the defensive huddle, and he's a kid that we have counted on to make big plays for 2 years." And defensively, if you don't think that they're going to come up and punch you in the mouth, I think that Reedsburg has to understand that Grafton is that kind of team.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like when you factor in Tyler's big playability in the second level there, I was talking to Sussex coach Justin Gum on the sideline at that game, and he's like 22 is the best player in the field, Max Glab.
Yes.
And he talked about how those 15 and 22, they're everywhere. And he was right. I mean, those two just make plays, and they are probably two of the most productive players, not just on that team, but in the entire Milwaukee area.
Do you know, Coach Norris also talked about kids that are going to be playing at the next level. Yeah. And he said, look, we have a couple, right? But then we have some guys that are going to be playing Division II or Division III, maybe in the state. He said, we're not loaded with all these big-time Division I athletes, but we got guys that work, put the sweat equity in to make this program what it needs to be. And when Jim got there a few years ago, Grafton was not somebody that guys like you and I talked a lot about when it came to football, right? Maybe wrestling, maybe basketball, some other sports. But football, they're now known as a very tough, physical football program.
Yeah, I think my first time talking to Jim is when they upset Port Washington in the playoffs a few years ago, and they were like a 5 seed and went all the way to state. So, he has really instilled an amazing culture out there. And Pound the Rock, like you said, it means more than just 3 yards in a cloud of dust. It means we are going to outwork you, outmuscle you, and out-hurt you, if you will.
Right.
Like, they are going to outwork you in every aspect of the game. And that's what the culture is at Grafton, and that's why they're playing for another state championship.
Hey, before we get to a break, a couple years ago here on My 24, our last game of the year at Greendale, Grafton, and it was raining sideways. And I'm telling you, I fell in love with Jim Norris when right after the first half, they scored and they were up 34-0, went for two to get it at 36 for a running clock. And I'm telling you, I've never wanted to hug somebody more in my entire life. Thank you, Coach Norris. We're going to get to a break on this side of the break. We'll discuss this Division III matchup. We just talked about Grafton. We're going to get to Reedsburg. 10-3, the Beavers from Reedsburg playing really well this time of year, and we're going to certainly talk to Calvin, or listen to Calvin talk a little bit about how that happened and when it happened, and we'll do that on the other side of the break. This is the Current Electric High School Football State Championship Preview Show presented by Cannon and Dunphy, only on My 24. Welcome back to the Current Electric High School Football State Championship Preview Show presented by Cannon and Dunphy. I am Mike McGivern alongside Michael Whitlow, preps writer for the Journal-Sentinel. It's the Mike and Mike Show. It's back. How about that? Hey, we're getting you ready for the Wisconsin State High School Football State Championships at Camp Randall. Michael, let's turn over to the team that Grafton is playing. Reedsburg, the Beavers from Reedsburg, 4-3 in conference, the Mississippi Valley Conference, 10-3 overall. A little bit different than some of the teams we talked about yesterday and talking about today, but boy, they've been playing really well down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, everything's been running through Will McConowitz. I mean, the kid's all state. I believe he was just offered by the University of Wisconsin. The kid has done literally everything for this team and then some.
Well, it's interesting you bring him up because when we had a chance to listen to Calvin Zenz, their head football coach at Reedsburg, something that normally doesn't happen in a game like this, right, where you're taking your quarterback and moving him to fullback, but he was asked the turning point of the season. Let's take a listen to his answer.
Will's been our starting quarterback the last 2 years. Our other fullback was Landon Purefoy, who averaged 195 yards a game last year. And when he went down, that was a significant blow to what we do offensively. And we had to move Will from quarterback to fullback. Sawyer Middlestead stepped in at quarterback. He's only a sophomore. So we had to make some pretty significant adjustments to, what we do, kind of, who we are. We felt we had the best quarterback running back combination in the state. So when Landon went down, we moved Will there. And I think everyone knows the rest of how that worked out.
Michael, you know that Coach Norris and that staff, that defensive staff from Grafton, are trying to figure out how to stop Will. And again, he was offered by Wisconsin. He's at that level of an athlete, and he is to move from quarterback to fullback. It doesn't sound like anybody would want to do that, but this kid, according to Coach Zenz, jumped up and down and said, "No, I'm good. If that's what it takes for us to win." And when you talk to the coach about when did the season turn, because you started out with some losses, and when did it turn? And he said, when this kid started playing fullback. And now we get to hand him the ball a lot. I mean, he rushed for just under 2,500 yards and 40 touchdowns. You put me in a field by myself for 2 days, I can't score 40 touchdowns. So this kid really has gotten them going. The other part that he talked about is they have 5 sophomores starting on defense. 5. And so Reedsburg might be a while. They may even be around a while.
Yeah, they might hang around for the next couple of years. We've talked about it yesterday with some of these schools that have sophomores and juniors that are contributing already at such a high level. You could say the same thing about Reedsburg here.
Yeah, and they don't throw the ball much.
No, I think I counted. They've thrown 26 total passes all year.
Their leading receiver had, I think, 3 catches for 50, and he rushed the ball a ton, but 3 catches. So again, Grafton defensively, they're going to obviously have to stop the run to be able to get a win here.
Yeah, their front 7 is going to have to do the job. They're going to have to be physical at the point of attack, and they got to take McConaughey out of the game early and get Reedsburg behind the 8 ball. Whether it's a 7-point lead, 14-point lead, they have to get off to a good start and make Reedsburg have to throw the ball.
Right, 100%. When you come out of the Mississippi Valley Conference 4-3, you were in the middle pack, 10-3 overall. I don't think anybody thought that they would be in the state championship game. I did not. But you got to give these guys and this coach a lot of credit to be how young they are. And he said, look, these kids got their feet under them. And not only when we moved Will to fullback, but as a sophomore, everything's a little bigger, a little faster. The lights are a little brighter, right? The band's warming up before the game. The cheerleaders are out there. Parents are crying, that kind of stuff. It takes you a little bit, right, to get the things to slow down. And obviously for Reedsburg, after 3 losses in conference, things started to slow down for these sophomores.
Yeah, absolutely. And credit to them for taking advantage of a what you would call a fortunate path to the playoffs. I mean, they played a 6 seed and an 8 seed in their last 2 games to get to state. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. You got to take advantage of that, and they did. And they have a player that can make a difference in McConaughey. He can take over a game in the blink of an eye.
He really can. The other thing that Coach Zenz talked about, and I think that they, especially after the start that they had, he said, we've been playing now with a chip on our shoulder since probably week 3 or week 4, and we keep talking about it. Remember, the only people that believe we have a chance are the people in this locker room. I have found that messaging to be very helpful as a coach.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, they took advantage of a good path to get to the state finals. But they were a 4 seed themselves. They still had to win some big games early on in the tournament. And on top of that, like you said, they're hovering around 500 first 5-6 weeks of the year. Now all of a sudden here they are 10-3 playing in Madison. Something had to have clicked, and credit to them for taking advantage of whatever was in front of them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching this game, and I'm going to watch the boys up front.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to.
Well, the game's going to be won.
It's going to be won there. And we'll if we don't have a chance to get to picks later in the show, kind of know where I'm going on this one. I feel like Grafton is got a chance to wear Reedsburg down a little bit.
I do too. I think with Jack Nelson in the backfield, I think with their advantage, I believe they have in the trenches, Max Glab and Tyler Heinley making plays on virtually every snap defensively. I just think Grafton's talent, their physicality, and their will to win, especially knowing how close they were a couple years ago,
Right.
I think that's going to make the difference.
Yeah, I do too. Michael, we're going to get to a break. On the other side of the break, we'll discuss the Division II matchup game between two undefeated teams from the Green Bay area as Notre Dame takes on West De Pere. This is the Current Electric High School Football State Championship preview show presented by Cannon and Dunphy only on My24. Welcome back to the Current Electric High School Football State Championship preview show presented by our friends at Cannon and Dunphy, getting you ready for the Wisconsin State High School Football Championships. I am Mike McGivern alongside my co-host. He is Michael Whitlow, preps writer for the Journal-Sentinel. Check out their work. Him and Zach do a great job covering the state of Wisconsin, all sports. And when we get a chance to talk to him about high school football, just a great time for me because he's very well knowledgeable on the coaches and the players in this state. Michael, let's turn our attention to Division II. At 1 o'clock kickoff right here on My24, the Tritons from Notre Dame take on the Phantoms from West De Pere. Both teams come into the game undefeated, right? Both teams play in the Fox River Classic Conference. West De Pere is in the north, Notre Dame in the south, and the schools are just a few miles apart. And I love that. All these guys have played youth sports against each other, right? Basketball, baseball, football. They play on the playground against each other. And it's funny, one of the coaches made a comment, look, we're 6 miles apart up here in Green Bay, and we're going to drive to Madison to play these guys. They both won their sides of the division in the FRCC, and we're going to start with Notre Dame. They are led by head football coach Mike Rader, and a heck of a program that they have there.
Yeah, I mean, I got to talk to Mike last year after they won the Division III title over Catholic Memorial, and he sounds like a former lineman turned head coach. They love to run the ball. They love to beat you up in the trenches, and they love to ride their running backs. It was Christian Collins last year. It's Kingston Allen this year. They're just a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, Kingston Allen put up some crazy numbers. When I talked about last segment, put me in a field by myself, I can't score 40. He rushed for over 900 yards in 2 games.
Yeah, I believe he's over 50 for the year. Is that right? Or on 50 exactly?
55.
55? I mean, I couldn't do that in a video game on rookie mode.
Either. It's good to see Wisconsin just put an offer into Kingston Allen. Hey, when we had a chance to listen to Mike Rader at the press conference, he talked about 2 teams being in the same conference, not in the same division, and playing against each other at state and what that means.
I mean, I don't know what the official record books look like, but I'm assuming it's pretty unprecedented to have 2 teams in the same conference or, as close to each other as we are playing the state championship game. It's not unprecedented for 2 people from the same community. I mean, Bayport and us and West De Pere are all, 10 miles apart from each other. So that's happened before. And I'm sure there have been situations where Milwaukee area schools have had similar things. It's obviously pretty cool. A lot of these kids grew up in playing youth sports against each other and are friends with guys on both West De Pere and Bayport, interestingly. And so that's cool. I mean, in some respects, we don't play those guys in the regular season. If we did, it would probably be a similar amount of interest and energy. When you played at Camp Randall, it becomes a state level energy. But I think internally, it's going to be a big game no matter what.
Michael, he also talked about playing West De Pere for the 7th time in the playoffs. 7th time in the playoffs, and he was asked if he was a coach on the other team, how do you stop Kingston Allen? And he kind of smiled. He said, good luck. Good luck with that. And I absolutely love that because, again, when you're playing against Notre Dame, their quarterback's had a pretty good year. He's thrown for almost 1,000 yards, and he's rushed for 169, but you kind of know what you're going to get. You kind of know what you're going to get when you're playing against Notre Dame. You got to be able to stop junior running back Kingston Allen.
Yeah, and we'll get to West De Pere in a little bit. I think the fascinating thing with this matchup is you would have probably the best quarterback in the state facing the best running back in the state. And it's two contrasts of styles that is so fascinating. This could be the game, not only of the day, this could be the game of the weekend.
Yeah, it could be, and that's saying something because I think we have three really good games.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to watch this because what you had talked about, possibly the best running back, the guy that has caught my attention with all the numbers he's been putting up for the entire year, but in the playoffs alone, it's 7 touchdowns against Slinger, I think.
Yeah, and most of those came in the second half of that game too. I mean, he just completely takes over the game on a consistent basis. And I mean, and this kid's not just running for 5, 6, 7 touchdowns. He's running for 350, 400, 450 yards in one game. Right. I mean, he's putting up what some kids put up in a month. He's putting it up in one game.
You know, head coach at Slinger, Billy is still seeing him in his nightmares. You know he is. Yeah. You know he's like, are you kidding me? We could not stop him at all. The other part about this matchup is Chris Creason, who's the head football coach over at West De Pere. His son is what you talked about, maybe the best quarterback in the state. He was going to be going to Notre Dame when Chris took the job. He was on the staff at Notre Dame and took the job at West De Pere, so his son followed him. And talked a little bit, Mike Rader, about that, and talked to Chris about it. And he said, hey, look, there's no hard feelings, right? Had an opportunity to get a head job. And so we came over, and it's been great for them. It's been great for us, and looking forward to this. A lot of very nice coach speak since these schools are like, you know, again, 6, 7 miles apart.
Yeah, it's friendly now. But once those teams take the field, that coach speaks out the window. It's about bringing home a gold ball.
Oh, you know what? It was friendly through the coach speak, but I've got to believe that, you know, when they're out having a cup of coffee, out having an adult beverage at night after a practice, watching game tape. Look, this is for Bayport's in it. Right? But in Division II, this one is for the bragging rights.
Yeah.
And you're going to be, again, you're going to get an ice cream in the summertime with your girlfriend. You're going to see some boys from the other team, and maybe you're going to flash that ring. And look, I've been part of some of those rivalry games. And it's way better to come out on top than it is to come out with a loss.
I couldn't imagine playing a conference rival for a state championship like this, especially when these teams are so good. The atmosphere there is going to be absolutely incredible.
And the fact that they are both undefeated in different divisions in the conference, and they're 7 miles apart. Why don't they put them in the same conference? I don't know. I've got nothing to do with that. But I'm thinking, wouldn't that game on a regular season schedule be something that a lot of people would want to see every year?
Oh, 100%. I mean, that would be a ticket you'd have to get on a Tuesday.
100%. Yeah. And if you had that on Friday, it'd be sold out on Monday. It definitely would. Listen, we're going to get to a break. And looking forward on the other side of the break, we'll talk about West De Pere and what they bring to this. And Coach Creason had a chance to talk about his son, the quarterback over there. And he's a South Dakota commit, and the kid can straight up spin it. And we'll talk a little bit more about West De Pere, the Phantoms, my favorite nickname, by the way. I love that nickname. On the other side of the break, this is the Current Electric High School Football State Championship Preview Show, presented by Cannon and Dunphy, only on My 24. Welcome back to the Current Electric High School Football State Championship Preview Show, presented by Cannon and Dunphy. We are getting you ready for the Wisconsin State High School Football Championships. I am Mike McGivern alongside Michael Whitlow. He is the preps writer for the Journal-Sentinel. The Division II State Championship game is at 1 o'clock. Right here on My 24 is the Tritons from Notre Dame take on the Phantoms from West De Pere. They are coached by Chris Creason, and I got to tell you, man, offensively, the first question in the press conference was, are you guys the best offense in the state? And he kind of was like, how do you answer that? He said, I think we're pretty good. I don't know if we're the best one in the state. We talked during the break. They might be the best offense in the state.
Yeah, I mean, this offense is just absolutely insane. When you have a quarterback that's not only throwing for 3,500 yards and 47 touchdowns, he's completing almost 69% of his passes. Like, that is insane for a high school kid. And then you factor in, there's Ryan Lutz in the backfield. He's ran for 1,800 yards. And then, we have an 1,100-yard receiver. This offense is legitimately unstoppable.
You know, when he was asked about that, he kind of got that gleam like, yeah, maybe. And then we talked a little bit about beating Bayport. And he said, look, that was a huge deal for this team in this locker room and for this coaching staff. You know, we knew we had a chance to be pretty good, right? We're a good program. We're one of the better programs in the state. But to be able to beat Bayport, I think proved to our kids, they had more kids on the sidelines than we did, but we competed at every part of that game and came out with a win.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about how good that area is when you have 3 teams from the same conference in Madison. Like, obviously that speaks to the depth and the quality of player, but that game itself was insane. I think there was like 80 points scored in that game, roughly. These teams and these offenses are so well coached and they're so explosive. In a blink of an eye, you're going to be down 20 points before you know it. So you have to be on your P's and Q's defensively.
100%. I was blessed to coach my son in basketball for 3 years, the high school level, right? He was our point guard and had a lot of fun after the first year. After the first year, I needed to make some changes. I was the adult in the room. And I loved the press conference and that Chris Greason, the head football coach at West De Pere, was asked about coaching his son.
Number one, his ability to process information quickly is the best I've seen out of any high school quarterback. And again, I don't say that because he's my son. I've just been around quarterbacking for a long time. With the offense that we run, with the up tempo that we run, for him to see what he sees, it's quite amazing. The second thing I would say is his accuracy. Super accurate, puts the ball pretty much where you want it. Case in point, last week, under the last minute, he throws a ball and he's like, yeah, I just tried to put it on his chest, Dad. I'm like, it was a 25-yard post route. And you're thinking about putting on his chest versus leading him too much. I was like, holy man. It was just amazing. And then the other thing is his football IQ is really taken off this year. And that play that I just mentioned, he actually audibled to the play. I called a different play, and he changed the protection and changed the play to try to get it to our receiver because he saw middle of the field open. And when the receiver got bumped off, he then read and came to his second read and then threw it right on his chest and almost got a touchdown off of it. So just those 3 things I would say really makes him special.
You know, I love that. What a great answer. And when you watch him and listen to him talk about his son, I can tell when he's talking about his son as the starting quarterback at the high school. And then when he gets in the personal stuff and he gets that gleam in his eye and he says, look, he's really smart. Like he studied the game. He does all the work. And you can tell now he's talking as a father and not as a coach. And I really enjoyed listening to him discuss the things that his son brings to the table. Years ago, when Sam Decker was a senior in high school here, I was up for the state basketball championships, and Sheboygan Lutheran got into the finals, and I was as a press guy. So I get a chance to talk to Todd after the press conference out in the hallway, and I said, hey, has it hit you yet? And he goes, what's that? I said, win or lose is the last time you're going to be coaching your son. And like tears started coming down. He goes, why'd you ask me that? And I said, because I'm an idiot, I guess. And then Sam walked by, he goes, did you make my dad cry? I said, yeah, a little bit. Sorry about that. But I was through this the year prior where we had won a Christian state championship, and I never thought about it before the game.
Right.
And I wish I had. And so I'm hoping that Chris has given that some thought. The other thing he talked about was with these kids playing different sports, and they have a lot of multi-sport athletes on West De Pere and at Notre Dame. And when they compete against each other in football, and then 2 weeks later see each other on the basketball court, and then the basketball season ends, and 2 weeks later they see each other on the track, or they see each other on the baseball diamond, he said, look, these kids either become really good friends, or they really don't like each other until they see each other in college or 2 years later. He said, but the rivalry part of it is really cool to be a part of.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely a respect factor that goes into that as well when you factor in how good these teams are.
Right.
Like I said, to have 3 teams from the same conference make it all the way to Madison, it's phenomenal. And then you talk about the quality of kids. I mean, we're talking about Kingston Allen earlier, getting an offer from the University of Wisconsin. That's not an easy thing to do.
Nope.
Patrick's going to South Dakota. I mean, and like you said, his accuracy, phenomenal. It doesn't matter what offense you're running. If you're completing 69% of your passes at this level,
Right.
that's impressive.
Thanksgiving Day, we ran a lot of bubble screens. I wasn't 60. I just watched, in the family kind of like turkey bowl. I could not do that. Hey, if you are a coach, Greason, and Greason, before we get to a break, you've got to be able to figure out how to stop this running back, Kingston Allen. And look, they're a better football coach. They've forgotten more than I possibly know, but they're going to have to do a good job in that first quarter of letting this kid know that he's not going to run wild on them.
Well, as you hear DCs all across every level say, we got to set the edge. And they're going to have to, because if you allow cutback lanes, if you're not getting good penetration up the middle, Kingston Allen's going to have 200 yards at halftime. I mean, let's just be real about it. So they have to be, their front 7 has to play the game of their lives, and they have to trust their eyes and be disciplined.
I really look forward to watching this one at 1 o'clock here on My 24. You have a pick on that one?
Get back to me later on that one.
You got it. I will not let you off the hook. Yeah, you're trying to get out of here without making a pick. I will track you down. Other side of the break, Michael, we're going to discuss the Division I matchup between defending state champion, the Bayport Pirates, and the Warhawks from Arrowhead. This is the Current Electric High School Football State Championship Preview Show presented by Cannon and Dunphy, only on My 24. Welcome back to the Current Electric High School Football State Championship Preview Show presented by Cannon and Dunphy. Just minutes away from the Division III game between Grafton and Reedsburg right here on My 24. I am Mike McGivern. Thanks for joining us alongside my co-host for the last 2 days, Michael Whitlow. He is the preps writer for the Journal-Sentinel. So let's talk a little bit about Bayport. The Arrowhead Warhawks are going to have their hands full today with the defending state champions, the Pirates from Bayport. They took second place in the Fox River Classic North Conference and are led by their head football coach, Steve Jorgensen. For a long line of football coaches in that family, and Bayport 11-2 overall, but been playing their best football here down the stretch.
Yeah, I got to see them a few weeks ago when they beat up on a really good Milwaukee Reagan team that won the city this year. And this is a very, very, very good football team. You got Matt Stevens at the head of the snake at quarterback. You have Brady Moon in the backfield that's ran for over 2,100 yards. I think he has almost 40 total touchdowns this year. This is a well-oiled machine as well. Like we've been talking about, the FRCC, I mean, this conference is absolutely outstanding. And to have 3 teams here in Madison today is phenomenal.
Steve's father, Hall of Fame coach, had a lot of success. And during the press conference, he talked about what it means to coach alongside his dad and his brother, and kind of what that does for the family dynamic come holiday time, come birthdays and stuff like that. And he got a big smile. And he said, yeah, we talk a little bit of football. And it's kind of the family business at this point, and had a big smile. Look, they're a confident group. Their staff is confident. Their players are confident. One of the interesting things he talked about when he's asked about how this program has gotten to where it's at, and not only like their coaches, but in the community. And he talked about, look, the parents, the families let us coach. And he goes, we've got some old school coaches, and I know what that means, and you know what that means.
Absolutely.
And he said, and this community allows us to coach these boys the way we think they need to be coached. And that really helps us a lot. And not only the parents, but the community understands that that's how these guys are. They knew what they were getting when the Jorgensens came in. And it's not for everybody. It's not. But it certainly has worked at Bayport.
Yeah, I mean, it may not be for everybody, but if you want to win and have a lineage of success, the Jorgensens are doing it the right way. I mean, they won D1 last year. They're right back here this year. I mean, this is like I said, this is a very good football team, and they are so well coached and so disciplined. They really don't beat themselves.
No, they do not. And during the press conference, Coach Jorgensen talked about Arrowhead and how tough a game this is going to be.
They got an unbelievable quarterback, big offensive line, explosive running backs. They got a state track team at wide receiver. They got dudes everywhere. So we got to attack. We're not going to sit back. We're not going to play defense on defense. We're going to play offense on defense. We want to attack what we feel they do well, and try to limit that and have them play in situations and in things that they don't want to do. So we've been working today to try to put that game plan together to try to slow that offense down. But like you said, you got to be on your keys against them. You got to be right, or they will make you pay. And even when you are right, you got to tackle and you got to get numbers to the ball because they can make you wrong with their special playmakers. So that's been our philosophy all year. We got to get to the football. We got to be on our keys. We got to be more disciplined than we were against Muskego. And we can't allow those explosives. Explosives are the key. We can't allow those on Friday night.
You know, Michael, the other thing that he talked a lot about in this press conference is, look, you win a state championship, and do the kids don't get in the weight room as much, and the things that happen when you have a lot of success. And he said, look, this group has stuck to the process. What is the process? How do we get from A to B and from B to Z? And he talked about how the kids in this school really understand if they're going to be part of the football program at any level, we're going to do things this way, right? And we're going to be tough on you, but stick to the process because we believe that's the best way to win a gold ball, and that's what we're all shooting for.
Yeah, and you hear it in his comments too. I mean, it's very detailed based, and he's right. I mean, to stop Arrowhead, you got to be able to take away the run game. Jacob Siners was named an All-State running back earlier in the week. Jabari Craig and Devin Nettles have been big-time playmakers during this playoff run for Arrowhead. He's absolutely right. You have to take away the explosives. And it goes back to what we were talking about. The Jorgensens do things the right way. They are going to have these boys prepared, and these boys have bought in to what the Jorgensens are selling.
And not every community and every school of administration, parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents would stick to the process,
right?
Of lighting our kids up, making them work a little harder. At the end of practice, if you didn't have a good practice, you're going to get on the line type stuff.
Right.
That's old school, but it's worked for the Jorgensens. And Stephen Jr. watched his dad do it and have a lot of success at a couple of schools. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where he got that from. The other part he talked about that I kind of smiled at, and rightfully so, on how confident this locker room is. And look, a lot of coaches might not tell you that, especially on a statewide press conference. They might not come out and say, look, we're kind of cocky, we're a confident group. But when you've had the kind of success that they've had, and when you have the Jorgensens handling your business, to be able to say, look, we're a really confident group, I think that tells a lot about what the locker room is like.
Yeah, I mean, I got to listen to his post-game, talk to his team after they beat Reagan, and it was very blunt. It's like, we don't care if it's Franklin or Verona in the next round. We're going to win. We're going to prepare all week. We're going to play hard, and we're going to win next week. I mean, and that's just their attitude. And as you can see with their record, and as you can see with what they've done last year with the state championship, they believe everything they say.
Hey, so we've got one segment left, and we're going to talk about Arrowhead and Matt Harris and the great job that his group has done there. And for years in this area, people were like, Arrowhead's there every year. What do they do? Well, they haven't been a state in 10 years. And first time for Coach Harris. And it's really interesting, the different contrast between Coach Jorgensen and Coach Harris, where Coach Jorgensen said, hey, we are starting to look at Arrowhead film. And wait till you hear what Matt Harris says about Bayport on the other side of the break. He is Michael Whitlow. He's the preps writer for the Journal-Sentinel and my co-host for the last couple of days. And this is the Kurt Electric High School Football State Championship Preview Show presented by Cannon and Dunphy, only on My 24. Welcome back to the Current Electric High School Football State Championship Preview Show presented by Cannon and Dunphy. We are just minutes away from the Division III game between Grafton and Reedsburg right here on My 24. I'm Mike McGivern alongside my co-host for the last 2 days. He's a good one, man. Michael Whitlow, preps writer for the Journal-Sentinel. Let's turn our attention over to the Warhawks from Arrowhead. Head football coach Matt Harris, they took second in the Always Tough Classic A Conference, and Matt's been their head football coach for 6 years, which surprised me. You know, days go slow, years go fast. And it's interesting that Matt's been there for 6 years. I talked to Matt early in the season, and I said, Coach, tell me what we're going to see with Arrowhead. And he said, Mike, and he normally has a lot of Lou Holtz, right? Every team's better. We don't really have the athletes. Not this year. He said, we have a chance. And he said, I think we're going to be better at the end of the year than we are at the beginning, but we have dudes, man, and we have a chance to be really good. And I'm hoping this is the year, because it's been 10 years since Arrowhead's been at Camp Randall. I hope this is the year we get back, and sure enough, it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really, really good football team, too. I mean, I really think this team's heart is Brendan Foley, the Army commit. You know, they use him in short yardage packages. I call it the Wild Foley package because the kid plays with his hair on fire, you know, and it's like he's a phenomenal linebacker, all-state selection earlier in the week. I love that kid. I love watching him play, and they're really going to need him against Brady Moon in this Bayport offense.
Yeah, they definitely are. The other thing that Coach Harris talked about, and he's the only one through all those press conferences who talked about his kicking game. And he said, look, we use this is a weapon now for us. If we get inside the 30, we're kicking, and our punter can change the side, can change the field. And he said, we haven't been, which is surprising, we haven't been great at kicking over the last few years at Arrowhead. But this year, he goes, it's 4th and 1 from the 25. Let's go take 3. And he said it really has made a difference on this team.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the last couple of days, we really haven't talked about special teams all that much. No. And Arrowhead's is legitimately a weapon. Evan Wozniak was a all-state punter.
Yep.
Cam DeBoer, I believe, was all-state honorable mention as a kicker. I mean, these dudes are weapons. And they can, I mean, I've seen them warm up, you know, before game, you know, during halftime. DeBoer's making field goals from 50, 55 yards with a good amount of leg. Like, that could make a difference in a game like this.
Does that remind you of the kicker that's kicking for Notre Dame right now?
You dang right.
Eric Schmidt.
Eric Schmidt.
Eric Schmidt.
Yeah.
He got his chance. And as a coach, I always told kids, if you get a chance, don't give it back. Not giving it back.
He's had a bit of a rough start. You know, he's a freshman kicker, but I tell you what, that kid's got a leg.
Okay, let's get back to Arrowhead if we can. What was interesting, we talked to Coach Jorgensen at press conference. He said, look, we're starting to look at Arrowhead right now. Coach Harris from Arrowhead, a whole different answer to kind of the same question.
Yeah, I've watched every one of their games all year long. I've seen it all. I went to their scrimmage when they scrimmaged Nina. I think scheme wise, they're one of the best teams that I've seen with their schemes. You know, obviously our goal is to get them off schedule, and if we can get them off schedule, I think that's where we could have an advantage. But I mean, against Muskego, I think they only got stopped in one possession on an interception on 4th down. They're scary. They're scary. They don't like to punt. They are very good at what they do on offense. And obviously their coach was born and raised in that offense with his old man by his side. And, you know, so we're doing everything we possibly can to try to throw them off schedule. But we know that they're very, very capable of scoring a lot of points.
So nobody's going to feel bad for Arrowhead. They haven't for years, right?
Right.
And so when he said, look, we're going to try our best, we're going to get them off schedule, he also said, look, they're scary good. And when Matt Harris, who's coached a lot of football in his life and some really talented players, he said, look, they're scary good. We got to figure this out. The other thing he talked a lot about, and I give him a lot of credit, he understands the history behind Arrowhead, and he talks about the legacy of his staff, and he talks about Tommy T and Coach Taraska and the success they had, and he said, we just want to get back to being in the conversation?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, you know, we talk about Eric Schmidt at Notre Dame. That's kind of like one of those jobs at the next level where you step into Notre Dame, USC, Florida, Texas, wherever you go. That is a prime elite blue chip program. Right. And that's what Arrowhead is. And they've been for so many years. I believe this is their 14th state title game appearance in history. This program is used to being in Madison. Like you said, it's been a decade, but this is a program that is built to be here year in and year out. And Coach Harris understands that.
Coach Tarasca is God rest his soul, but he is up in heaven smiling right now. I had him in studio years ago, and I had only met him on the sidelines of a football game, 20 minutes before kickoff. And then he comes in studio, and during the first segment, he was hysterical. And during the break, I said, "You're funny?" He goes, "I'm really funny." I go, he goes, "Does that surprise you?" I go, "Yeah. I've only seen you on the sidelines." He said, "Well, I'm not like trying to be funny on the sidelines, trying to win a game." But he's like, "So these two dogs walked into a bar." I go, "I don't want to hear about it. I do not want to hear about it." But the fact that Coach Harris understands the legacy, and so there are guys on his staff that have been on the staff at Arrowhead for a really long time, and he doesn't run from that. He embraces that, and I give him a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a couple of years removed from having 3 Division I players on his team. I mean, Jace Gilbert, you know, Garrett Sexton, Derek Jansen, who went to UW-Madison. Like, he's used to having these elite level athletes at such a historically good program. He understands what it means to be a Warhawk, and I think he is kind of in that mode of, you know, he's going to be taking pictures. He's going to enjoy the sights and sounds of being in Madison for the first time. But I think listening to him, understanding how much he's had Bayport on the mind, he's going to have his boys ready to go.
Hey, you thought I forgot. I didn't. Notre Dame, West De Pere, who do you take?
Man, you put me on the spot here, Mike.
Yes, sir.
You know what? I always say in the playoffs, if you have a good run game and you can stop the run, you're going to have a lot of success. And I think Notre Dame's got the best run game in the state. I'm going to trust the Tritons here. I think they can shut down that high-profile offense and make them maybe get off script a little bit.
West De Pere, taking West De Pere. Really quickly, Arrowhead and Bayport.
I earlier in the week, my partner Zach Bellman and I, we made our picks. I actually took Bayport.
I'm taking Arrowhead. You know what? We'll do lunch on one of these for sure. Hey, Michael, it's so good to see you. Thank you very much. Make sure you read his stuff. Michael Whitlow, the Journal-Sentinel. On the other side of the break, the wait's over. Kickoff for Division III state championship as Grafton takes on Reedsburg. Be sure to stay with us the entire day. Right, 4 o'clock kick is Division I here on My 24 for state championship games throughout the day. This has been the Colonel Electric High School Football State Championship Preview Show presented by Cannon and Dunphy only on My 24.